tonight. Let your brother count on you every play tonight. Okay? And come out and have fun. The gates are locked. Ain't nobody getting out now. They can't run. The gates are locked. Let's bring the fight to them, guys. Yes, sir. All right, brother. Let's pray.
The Northeast Texas Sports Network is dedicated on delivering the most entertaining sports broadcasts in East Texas. And if you're interested in having your next sporting event streamed live, visit us online at
Good evening, everyone. Off the Ropes, week number what? No, wait, Off the Ropes. That's the wrong show, Kyle. Beast from the East. Week 11, as we talk some football, not wrestling. You got me confused. We were talking about wrestling a while ago, and I was ready for Beast from the East. But that's
you had me confused because this afternoon you sent a message into the wrong channel, and you had me. I was like, "Wait, are we talking wrestling tonight? What's happening?"
I mean, we could be. I mean,
no. We saved that for tomorrow night.
Oh, tomorrow night. Hey, you know why I'm all confused, Kyle? Because tonight is a confusing night. It's Tuesday night. All this election stuff going on. You know, if you want to get away from all that and you want to talk football, you're in the right place here. Make sure everyone tunes in tonight because we can't worry about control of that, but we can talk football all night.
Listen, Mac, I've been watching the Pat McAfee show for the past few weeks, and well, for longer than that, but these past few weeks they've been saying that today is trade deadline day. It's NFL trade deadline day, which it is, but they haven't been getting political, but they wanted to make sure you get out there and trade early. And so make sure you get your trades in.
Okay.
And they were talking about how some teams will be very happy tonight and other teams will be very upset tonight on trade deadline day. So happy trade deadline day to everybody.
Okay. Well, There's no trading going on here. You still got the same two guys. And I want to take a moment and thank everyone that's reached out to me that has reached out and messages and everything that really like our show. We appreciate hearing that kind of stuff because, it's kind of whittled down to the final two. We started out, Kyle, with this group, and then over the last month or so, it's just been me and you. But still enjoy it. Glad everyone's enjoying our show, and we enjoy talking a little football during this time of year.
Yeah, I will say the only negative, because I enjoy it too, but one of the positives is we get out a little quicker because it's just me and you talking. We don't have to listen to others. But the negative about it is also it's just me and you and our opinions and our thoughts on it. We don't get kind of a broader
I mean,
kind of outlook on things.
I guess our opinion's the only one that matters then, right?
I guess so. That's right. But I enjoy it, but we don't have too much more of these left. The football season's kind of winding down already.
It is, and then it will be only playoff teams, and it'll be a little more condensed on what we're talking about. But we'll still have the shows through the playoffs. It will just be a playoff edition of those, and we'll get to talk more playoff matchups and the brackets and all that kind of fun stuff. And that's only a few weeks away, but we still have 1 week of football and a lot left to be determined in East Texas. But let's talk about last week first. Want to give a shout out. We had one person that won last week that had a 8 out of 10. That was our top score of the week. Tough week here in the Pick'ems. We'll give a shout to Chris Hyde. He was our 8 out of 10 winner for this week. So he is our NETSN Pick'em champ for the week. So good job. We'll even give you a little bit of applause, Chris. Good job. Good job. So he got 8 out of 10. I had 7 out of 10, which was in second place, along with about 13 others. So that was a pretty common number. I don't see Kyle on that list. Kyle,
hey, listen, I had 6. I was right behind you. It's just
okay.
There's so many 7s you can't see my 6, but I'm right there. I'm right there behind you.
I'm trying to look down and see you.
It's just like I just had to look at the leaderboard too. You're not going to see me on the first page, but I'm 1 point behind what's on that first page, so I'm right there. It's okay. Remember, I had that bad week where I threw a Hail Mary and it backfired big time, and so I'm trying to catch up from that.
That's why you should just go with your gut and go what you think every time, and then you can't try to
get. If I would have went with my heart, I would have only got 5 right last week. So let's just say me picking with my head helped.
You did. Even though you got really ridiculed from that online about not going with your Eagles. Hey, it almost backfired. Your Eagles did well.
And I would have been okay if it backfired. I would have been okay had that backfired, but that one did not.
Now, if we'd have had a little more information when we recorded the show, I probably wouldn't have missed game 1. The game we had was our Thursday night game. DJ Barnes did not play quarterback for the Dragons. They had a freshman in there. I can't remember his name, number 20. I saw the game since it was available. Do you know what I'm talking about, Kyle?
Yeah, I cut the highlights. Let me go look at the shot sheet. By the way, let me give a shout out to you, Brett, NETSN, for me being able to grab some highlights from these games so I don't have to travel to them. They're posted on NETSN, and for those that don't know, I've been living under a rock. I work at KLTV, and so I get to clip those highlights, and then they get posted onto TV and on web. So NETSN gets some shine on KLTV. You love to see it.
We don't mind providing them. That's. I mean, it's honestly, we're all doing the same thing. We're trying to cover the kids in these programs in East Texas, and so we can get them on the news. That's great too. It was a really good game between
Gavin McDonald.
Okay. All right. So he played well. Just not as a freshman, hasn't gotten as many reps. And you just see DJ Barnes is just that guy. Like, he is a difference maker on the field. So if I'd have known that, I might have switched my pick because Joaquin's been playing well. I mean, they're and they're tough to prepare for, trying to doing all those, is it the wishbone they run or the wing tee?
I think so. Wing tee, wishbone.
One of those. If Aaron was here, he'd be able to tell us because he's an expert with the with those kind of systems. But it's just you never know who's going to get it, and so it's really tough to prepare for. And Joaquin got the win. Only 4 people had Joaquin winning that game out of the 44 people that picked that game. So I will say, guys, make sure you get your picks in on these Thursdays. I mean, we had 6 people that missed that pick just because they didn't make a pick. So got to get those picks in. I don't think there's any Thursday ones on the pick 'em this week. But make sure for playoffs, sometimes they'll play Thursday games. So get your picks in. You got plenty of time to do so. We even send a reminder every week to reminder to make your picks. So make sure you get those in. But yeah, I mean, it's tough now that district, and we'll talk about it. We're gonna talk about scenarios and stuff when we get to the talking about next week's games. But this now throws a really big wrench in this playoff picture for this district. It's kind of all mixed up. All right, game 2, Wascom took care of business. They beat Legion Fields in a game that I picked Wascom. We had 10 people take Elysian Fields. Man, just from seeing Wascom against Big Sandy a few weeks ago, and the fact that they beat a really good Beckville team that you've seen, Kyle. Wascom is a really good team, and I wouldn't want to meet them in the playoffs. They've got a lot of athletes, and they got some size. And they got the potential to make a pretty good little run.
Yeah, and we saw it in that game against Big Sandy. They can do it in all phases. They got a good defense. They can score defensively. They got good special teams that they can score on. They blocked a punt in that game. Yeah, Wascom's a really good football team. I think Wascom's a team we underrated all season long until we finally got to see them in person and now kind of see what they're all about. So, yeah, I think we'll be talking about Wascom for the next few weeks too. I think they'll be playing deep into the playoffs.
We talked about seeing them against Big Sandy. Big Sandy gets a huge win this week over Hawkins by 1 point, 34-35. Kyle, man, they needed that one. That was a big win, and so Big Sandy now kind of takes control of that 3rd spot in this district.
And you know what makes that win even sweeter for Big Sandy is they eliminated Hawkins from the playoffs, and that's kind of that makes it even sweeter. Yeah. So, but look, if you look at Hawkins, it's been a tough year for Hawkins. They got that 3-point loss to Elysian Fields, a 1-point loss to Union Grove, a 1-point loss to Big Sandy. You flip those around, they're looking at a 2 seed or they're in Big Sandy spot, maybe at a 3 seed in that district with 5 wins. So just a tough year for Hawkins, losing some really close games, but they've been really competitive. And I got to give a shout out to Coach Pullum and Big Sandy because we saw them against Wascom kind of lay an egg in a big game. We saw them against Beckville lay an egg in a big game. This was a big game, and they did not lay an egg. They came out and had some adversity and fought to win a tight game. So shout out to Big Sandy.
Yeah, we'll get to see Big Sandy this week as I think Keith will be traveling to Big Sandy to see them take on Union Grove as they get ready for a postseason.
Big game.
All right. Next up, Overton and Mount Enterprise, a game we had on NETSN that I watched the end of. Keith and Jason made the trip down to Mount Enterprise for a classic down there. Kyle's Overton kicks the extra point in OT and gets the win. Man, what a game this was. It was back and forth, 45-44. And this is one of those games where the kicker matters, Kyle.
Do not get me started. I'm wearing my Eagles garb. Do not get me started on kickers. Do not get me started on kickers. But you're absolutely right. Kickers do matter. And when you have a kicker, it's a big benefit. And that's what, especially at the 2A ranks, you don't see a lot of great kickers in small schools. So big time kick for Overton, big time win for Overton. That they needed that. And now it puts Mount Enterprise in a must-win situation. And now if you're Overton, not that you can kick back, but you are playing a Cushing team that hasn't won a district game, and then you're already clinched a spot in the playoffs. So you know that you're already in the playoffs. You can kind of focus on that. So big win for Overton.
Man, that was some fun. That was a fun game. At our game, we were in Bullard for the Brook Hill game, and we're packing up, and that game's still going. We watched that one a couple of good overtime games this weekend. We got to watch that one in its entirety, watch the end and the kick, and then we tuned over and watched the Lindale, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But man, what a big win for Overton and their program. Game 5 here, we had Cooper and Honeygrove in a game we'd kind of been anticipating all season. Cooper started off slow, but they played the tough schedule that they did, and Honeygrove said, "Not so fast, my friend. We are here to play." And they got the win 26-14 in a really good game against Cooper. And so now Honeygrove kind of solidifies himself there as the top dog in district, and Cooper will take the 2 spot. But this is one of Diggs' team, so I'm sure he's proud of his Honeygrove squad and them got the win. But impressive win for Honeygrove over Cooper.
Yeah, it really is. In Honeygrove these past couple of years has been really good defensively, and the defense looks like it showed up once again, holding Cooper to 12 points. So offense did just enough to win the game, scoring 26. And Honeygrove, big win for them. And yeah, Diggs should be happy tonight that a DFW squad got a big win. I guess over another DFW squad. Cooper's, I guess, DFW considered too. I don't know.
I think everyone's DFW, right?
But it seems that way.
If they're a good team.
If they're a good team and within 100 miles of Dallas, they are DFW.
Okay. That's pretty good range. That's a pretty big circle on the map there.
That is a big circle.
Man. Well, speaking of good games, we had another good game here as these games were really good in the pick'ems as Liberty Allo goes to Jefferson, or Jefferson goes to Liberty Allo and gets a win 35-34 in just another great. I mean, these were some great games. I don't know who picked these pick'ems, but they did a really good job this week of picking really good close games.
Hey, kudos to him. No, that's yeah, you're right. This is everything that a game like this should have been. It was the 2 best teams in this district and playing for a district championship in week 10, and it lived up to the hype. And Jefferson stays undefeated, got a big win. I think that says a lot about this Jefferson team. We've kind of wondered about them. They've been undefeated, but who have they really beat? Well, they just beat a really good Liberty Allo team on the road with everything on the line. So I think we need to keep an eye on this Jefferson team moving forward in the playoffs too.
All right, game 7, a game you're familiar with, Kyle, as you made the trek down to Timpson for this Garrison and Timpson game, and another close one. Go figure. 22-19 win for Garrison over Timpson, and now, like we said earlier, with this, we got all kinds of craziness in this district.
Yeah, this district is stupid now. I mean, with Joaquin winning on Thursday, whoever won this Timpson Garrison game was going to be sitting in a prime spot going into that final week. And Garrison, in the first half, Brett, they turned the ball over 3 times. Garrison turned the ball over 3 times, 2 fumbles and a pick in the first half. But on the first play from scrimmage, Antonio Yarborough, everybody thinks he's down, but he stays up like Houdini somehow and takes off for a 60-plus yard touchdown on the first play of the game. But that was it. That was all the scoring till real late in the first half, when after the 3rd turnover, the pick, they had a good return on the pick. Timpson did. Braylon Parker got it across midfield. And then in 3 plays, Timpson was able to get into the end zone. Jeffrey Richardson scored with 59 seconds left in the first half, made it 7-7. Coming out of halftime, took Timpson about 4 plays for Braylon Parker to find Albert Parker on a screen and take it 43 yards to the house for a touchdown to put Timpson ahead. Blocked extra point, though. Remember that. That's key. We talk about kickers and kicking. Eagles, Nick Sirianni. The big blocked extra point here that comes up big later in the game. So then Garrison gets the ball back, and Antonio Yarborough again takes one to the crib. So they take the lead. They make their extra point, 14-13. Timpson, J.J. Garner, there goes that man. He goes 77 yards to the house to put Timpson back up. Timpson goes for 2 because they missed that extra point. Could not get the 2-point conversion. So it's 19-14. Garrison with about 5 minutes left in the game. This time it was Avery Yarborough. He takes a handoff, and he goes to the house 70-plus yards for Garrison to take the lead. They go for two. They get it. They win 22-19 in a heavy, heavy mist that was falling by the end of that game. On the camera for the interview after the game, it looks like it's pouring down rain, but it's just a heavy mist. But it was an electric atmosphere. That was my first Battle of the Atoyac to witness, and it was phenomenal. I mean, the intensity, you could feel it. The electric atmosphere from both crowds were huge. It was cool to see Terry Bussey's retired number there too. Just kind of some interesting history there in Timpson. So fun night though at John Herbert Eakin Field in Timpson. So
And you had a special guest that got to go down with you, Kyle.
Yeah, Pops got to ride with me because he ran the camera for Larry, and so yeah, for we got to go down there an hour and 45 minutes. Didn't have to ride by myself there, and hour 45 back. Didn't have to be by myself. So shout out to you and shout out to Pops.
Yeah, I'm glad that worked out. It was a good idea. I don't know if it was his idea, your idea. It was a good idea, and I reached out to Larry. And he's usually, Larry's doing everything. Has the camera.
Hey,
and
speaking of Larry, I watched because the Thursday night game last week was atrocious. So I watched pretty much all that Shelbyville and Joaquin game. Larry crushes it. That was my first game to really watch Larry and listen to Larry. He does a really good job, and it blows my mind. I've called many a game, but I've never sat there and tried to do a video camera while doing play-by-play at the same time. Like that is, my hat's off to Larry. I don't know how he does it. I have no clue how he does it. But
I asked him, hey, how was it? And he's like, it was pretty good because he had one extra thing that he didn't have to do. So then he's able to like keep stats a little better or whatever, and to add to the broadcast. So as someone that does a lot of that too, and as well as anybody, like, you're trying to run this equipment and do this and that, and then try to run the camera. I don't advise.
Could not imagine it.
I don't advise.
Could not imagine it.
So it was good that we got to send your dad in there. Plus, y'all got to spend the evening together. So it's good times all around.
Good time.
All right, not a good time in Center right now as our Rough Riders, another game that was on NETSN. They took a little beating over from Athens. Now I did hear that Athens quarterback returned in this. I don't know if this game or the week before. It's been out. I heard he's really good, but 43-26 all over Center. I was expecting this game to be a Center win, but a close game. I thought it would be a really good one. And now, we'll talk about this, but this is going to make it. This district now gets interesting because I know it wasn't on our pick'ems, but Brownsboro knocked off Bullard. What is going on?
I know.
So, I mean, since this one probably won't be in the pick'em, so I'll go ahead and tell you. I kind of, if it's a regular district tiebreak, Bullard, Brownsboro, and Rusk all have one win, right? They beat each other, so that's a point differential. They're probably all losing this week. They're playing the top three. They're playing Rusk and Center, Athens, and Carthage are playing those three. I know Center's playing Rusk because that game's on NETSN. Unless one of them miraculously beats somebody, then the tiebreak is going to go to Rusk because they beat Brownsboro by 14, lost to Bullard by, I think, 4 or 5. They have like a +9, I think, differential. And I think that's going to put them in. Welcome to the playoffs, Rusk. You get first round, Pleasant Grove.
Yes.
I don't know. But I think that's the way it'll go. That game, we had that game, that Brownsboro Rusk game a few weeks ago, and Rusk pulled away and got that 14-point win. At that point, we were talking about staying in the playoff race, and I was serious. I'd think stay in the race. Didn't expect that though. As the Bullard game was a 1-point win for Brownsboro, so they got the win, but they only got +1 on the differential, and they were still so they're like -13, I think. So, unless there's a miracle that happens, the Rusk Eagles, the NETSN bump, I guess they're going to make the playoffs.
That's tough. Yeah, Brownsboro really threw a wrench into everything winning, but kudos to Coach Conant and the Brownsboro Bears for fighting because they could have very easily mailed it in and just been like, whatever. But they fought to get that win, and I must eat crow because I believe last week on this show I said Carthage is in a tier by themselves. Then I said Center was the next tier by themselves, and then everybody else. I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. Coach Harrell, I apologize. Athens.
I think you played your clip during practice all week, Kyle.
Like Vandy did for Saban. I didn't. I haven't seen Athens enough, and I guess we should have paid more attention with only a 10-point loss to Henderson, and then of course everybody loses to Carthage. But the Brownsboro win, that was a close one, but I guess Brownsboro beat Bullard now, so I don't. How does this game on Friday look against Bullard with Athens? I don't think it's going to be very close. I said this last week with Center, but I don't think this Athens game against Bullard's very close. I think Athens has momentum now that they're gaining, headed towards the playoffs. It's a big win for Coach Harrell and his squad. And if you're Center, you regroup, come back this week, and take care of business against Rusk. See if you can take care of business against Rusk. I mean, that's going to be a big game. So, big win for the Athens Hornets, though. Congratulations to the Hornets.
Yeah, only 3 people had Athens in this game, so that's another upset there.
Yeah,
man, that's the reason
should have paid more attention to Athens.
Yeah, sorry, Athens. NETSN now knows we've learned our lesson here. Me and Kyle, we both had Center there. Maybe we were swayed by our loyalty to the Rough Riders a little bit. I don't know, but we apologize. Great job, and congrats on the big win. Next game, game 9. My Bulldogs got a huge win over Henderson. I mean, they got sick of someone that got angry. Man, just all over them, Kyle.
Without Brisbane and Stewart.
Yeah, 42-14. I would
Without
not
your 2 best weapons. That is insane.
Yeah. They submitted themselves, I think, in that 3rd spot now. And so that was a big win for Chapel Hill. Now Henderson, as we kind of combine these last two, speaking of that, only 18 folks out of the 49 that picked this game took Chapel Hill. So the disrespect that you showed to Chapel Hill, I'm going to call you. You're always calling me out. Come on now. Come on, man.
I just want Coach Reardon and the Bulldogs to know that I picked Chapel Hill. I was on the Chapel Hill side.
Well, here's the deal. Like, you look at their schedule, the only people they've lost to, you look at our poll, Carthage, Kilgore, Pine Tree, the top 3 that's been our top 3 for a while. That's their only losses. So, I mean, and they've had not everybody, they hadn't had all their bullets to put in the gun here. And so
I think that's the most impressive part to me is not only like the wins over Palestine and Maybank without Brisbane are one thing. I mean, but by the way, shout out Coach Reyes of Palestine getting their first dub this year.
Yeah.
Coach Reyes' first dub at Palestine. Yeah. But I think what impressed me most was seeing how firsthand, because I was there, seeing how Chapel Hill looked against Pine Tree last week when Stewart didn't play the entire second half. And Chapel Hill still nearly won that football game. And so that gave me a lot of optimism going into this past week with Chapel Hill, but I did not expect this. I did not expect a 42-14 game. I'm impressed with Chapel Hill, and I think that the Bulldogs, they have a week off this week to get healthy. Their season's already over, the regular season. So they have a week off to kind of heal some folks up. I don't know the status of Ricky. Maybe you know something that I don't about Ricky, but going forward, do you get Brisbane back? When does Ricky come back? This Chapel Hill team could be we said it all year. All they need to do is get in the dance. Just get in the dance and then see what happens. And they're in, and they could be a problem.
I think they're 3rd locked. I don't think there's any way that, the top 2 above them, they've lost 2. So any ties would go to that. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be, it's got to be the seating. Now, the only thing I think of is, looking at the district, you've got Henderson also has two losses. So for some reason, if Pine Tree decides to lose to Palestine, you might have a 3-way tie there. So that could be, but I don't see that happening. I think Chapel Hill's locked in 3rd place. I think that's That's what they're going to end up
Yeah.
being. So they may go find someone that's going to be in the district across now. That's the second place team and go scout this week. They could go get that done a week early. I don't know if there's any need to scoreboard watch for them. They're in. They're thinking about having a couple weeks to prepare for another team. So I do not know anything about Stewart. I think this was a great chance to rest him. They got the win they needed. So he's gotten he'll have a couple of weeks off now that he didn't have to play this week, and then they don't have a game. So, and then Brisbane is expected back at some point in the playoffs. I don't know how many rounds they'll have to win for him to be back. But here's the thing with Chapel Hill, if they're able to get far enough, and I think they probably can in this region, because I don't think they'll play in their other district foe. I think it would be Palestine, maybe third round. And then it would be probably Kilgore or the Henderson Lindale winner in the fourth round. So if they have their horses back by that third round game, I think it's anybody's guess of how good they're going to be then. So I think it's going to come down to that if they can get them back. But shout out to Coach Reardon and those guys, man. That's a big win. It's huge as far as like the point spread is. Like you were said, I didn't expect that at all. I had no idea they were going to do that. I thought they had a good chance of winning, but man, shout out to that way to end the season there.
Hey, you were talking about them scouting. I imagine there will be a pretty good Chapel Hill contingency headed down to Bridge City this week, because Bridge City and Huffman Hargrave play each other, and they're both 5-1 at the 2 and 3 spot in that other district. So the loser of that game will be the 3 seed, and the winner of that game will be the 2 seed. So yeah, I think they're going to watch that game.
And they are doing first and second place teams get the home game, right? Isn't that what they're doing?
Is that in 4A too?
I think that's the 4A. I think they're doing it 4A now this year, I believe.
Is it? I don't.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I know they changed it up, but I don't remember.
5A and up was doing it last year, but I think 4A is doing that this time. Let me see. But that's something to look into, because I think that's the case. That's huge for them, because they have to. That's a long drive to have to drive for a playoff game instead of getting a neutral site game. So that helps. I like it because it gives your top seeds an advantage. I think that's a benefit for playoff wise. Then you get to play another home game. I personally think it's a good idea, but I don't know. I guess they'll figure that out. But I think that's the new rule. And then game 10, another overtime thriller, as we were just throwing out overtime thrillers here on the NETSN Pick'em. Longview Pine Tree gets the win over Lindale 13-7 in overtime. And what was a incredible finish with some blocked field goal try and another, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, on this it was blocked and they picked it up and ran it in.
I'm not 100% sure. I haven't seen how the game ended.
I think that's how it ended. Because I know Lindale kicked and theirs was blocked, and then Pine Tree lined up, I believe, and Lindale blocked it. The Pine Tree picked it up and ran it in.
Jeez.
I think that would. Now, I'm sure we'll have those that will correct me if I'm wrong there, but there was some crazy stuff going on in this game. I know that.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't watched anything. I was just keeping up with the score. 0-0 at halftime is mind-boggling to me, especially in today's day and age where everybody scores a ton of points. But then for it to be 7-7 going into overtime, like that's a tight game. And for Pine Tree to come out of there with a win, I mean, obviously it says a lot about Pine Tree to be able to pull off that win. But I mean, I'm proud of Lindale's effort. I mean, Lindale going in there knowing they needed a win. Now they're not out of it. They have a chance thanks to Chapel Hill. Shout out Chapel Hill. But thanks to Chapel Hill, Lindale still has a chance at the playoffs. But going into last week, you thought they needed to win both games to get in. And so they played their tails off like it was a playoff game. And that's a great effort from Coach Cochran and the Lindale Eagles. And, they still have an opportunity right in front of them to get into the playoffs. So everything's right in front of Lindale, and I think if they can go out and play another tough game like they did this week, there's no reason that they can't get into the playoffs.
How devastating would that be for Henderson if they
Oh,
started
man.
district play at 3-0 and to lose the last 3 and not make it? Ah, man.
Listen, I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't, but that would mean they'd have to beat Lindale. So I don't know, man. I don't want to be involved in this one. I hope that I wish
They
both
gotta
teams could
go.
get in.
They gotta go to Lindale and beat Lindale at home. That's gonna be it's a tough place
That's
to
gonna be a
win.
tough one.
That's all I'm gonna say, Kyle. It's a tough place to win. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hey, for whatever reasons you may think it's a tough place, regardless, it's a tough place to win, baby. We got home field advantage at Lindale.
Yeah, that's definitely home field advantage. All right. All right. Let's take a look at our polls. I know my 6A, 5A poll did not change at all. I've still got the same group. I've got Texas High, Longview, Lufkin, Marshall, White House. Any changes for you? No. I think that's pretty consistent now. Our poll combined did not change at all. It's just there's not another team there that's really been, I know White House and Marshall play this week. We'll talk about that game here in a minute, but even if that game, unless Marshall just blows them out, I don't know who else you put there in that fifth spot. In this 6A, 5A group, there's just not. I mean, Nacogdoches got hammered by Mount Pleasant this past week.
Yeah,
it was like
it
was like 50 something to 7. It was something ridiculous.
Mount Pleasant would be the only one I think you could argue putting in because they are playing good football and they beat White House. But I mean, I don't see a way. They could be in the playoffs if they win this week. Like I
don't know either.
There's only so many teams we could choose from.
So here's the deal. You've got White House at 3-2 tie with Mount Pleasant. So Mount Pleasant beat them. So White House is actually sitting in 4th currently. And then you've got Hallsville in the 5th spot, and they play Mount Pleasant. So could be interesting. You could have Hallsville at 3-3, White House at 3-3, and Mount Pleasant at 3-3. So then you'd have to look at the point differential. Let's see. If you're a Hallsville, you have Mount Pleasant this week, so you won't know the point differential there. Over White House, Hallsville lost by 19. I don't know what the top level is. I don't know that they give them all those points, but that would be a plus 19 for Hallsville, or a negative 19 for Hallsville because they lost to White House. And then White House would have that positive over Hallsville, but they lost to Mount Pleasant by 13. Man, it could be a cluster there if that happens. So that 4th spot, 3 through 5, it's up in the air still. So that's interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But so I don't know that. I think it's White House. If they win, they're in. They'll be tied with Marshall. But that's going to be a tough road to hoe. They end up being 3-3. They better hope for Mount Pleasant to win, to not get in this differential rate. I don't think you want to put yourself there.
Hey, I did some research here.
Okay.
So, according to the UIL football manual postseason information,
okay,
it says teams advancing to the playoffs. 1A, 6-man, Division 1 and 2, top 2 teams advance. 2A through 5A, top 4 teams advance, 1 state champions crowned. It doesn't say anything about them hosting a playoff game, but it also doesn't say anything about it in 5A or 6A. So it might not have it.
No, we'll have to do some research.
Oh, hold on.
What?
Got it.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. Home field advantage 5A, 6A. For the first round of the playoffs only, the opponent with the higher district finish will determine whether the game is played on its home field or mutually agree to play the game at a neutral site. Home sites are those for the first round in 5A, 6A only. is what it says. Now, could be that I'm reading an old one, but
Okay.
this
I'd
is
heard
the
they
one
moved
that's
it down to
on
4A, but that doesn't mean it. I mean, we'll find out. I guess they'll have
It
some
may
games.
have been proposed, but I don't know if it went through.
Okay.
Because according to this, it's still 5A and 6A only.
Okay. Well,
But-
we'll find out. I'm sure when those games are announced, because by next week when we have this show, we'll know the playoff matchups and where they are, and then we'll know for sure.
Right.
All right. This week's poll for the 4A, I had a little bit of shifting in mine. Obviously, I moved Chapel Hill up after their big win over Henderson. Henderson dropped out of my poll. I have Carthage at 1, Kilgore 2, Pine Tree 3, Pleasant Grove 4, Chapel Hill 5, Van 6, Gilmer 7, Athens 8, Center 9, and I moved Canton back in at 10 because they've only lost the one game and they've continued to win games.
Okay. I made a little movement as well. My top 3 remain the same: Carthage, Kilgore, Pine Tree. I moved Chapel Hill from 6 to 4, so I bumped them back up to 4. Couldn't put them ahead of any of those other 3 teams because they lost all of them head up. So top 4 are right there. I moved Pleasant Grove from 7 to 5. I moved Gilmer from 8 to 6. I dropped Henderson from 4 to 7. So I only dropped them 3 spots. And the reason is because they lost to the 6th ranked team at the time. Like, I'm not going to drop them. Now, I know they did get blown out, but I'm just dropping them there. I moved Sulphur up from 9 to 8. I dropped, I don't remember who I dropped out of here completely. I dropped Center. I dropped Center out. Moved Van up from 10 to 9, and I moved Athens into my top 10. I did not have them ranked, so I dropped Center out, moved Athens in.
Okay. Yeah, I had Center up to 5, so I dropped them down to 9. I keep forgetting about Sulphur Springs though. I like that. I like that vote. It's weird because they're not in an East Texas district. They're kind of out.
Right.
I kind of forget about them being in there. But yeah, I like that vote for them. I didn't. The main reason why I didn't drop Center completely out just because I had them high. If I'd have had them down lower, then I probably would have dropped them. I had Henderson down at 9, I think, because I
think I had. Yeah, see, I had Henderson up higher, and I had Center at 7.
I kind of had them up a little bit, and then they lost, so I dropped them. I just wasn't sold on Henderson, how good they were. I wanted to see how they did against these top teams, and they didn't do so well. So they came down out of it. So let's see what our overall tabulation sits at. We've got Carthage 1, Kilgore 2, Pine Tree 3, Pleasant Grove 4, Chapel Hill 5, Gilmer 6, Van 7, Athens 8, Sulphur Springs also at 8, and Henderson still hanging on there at 10. So I like that. Solid.
I don't hate it. I think Athens could have been in there, but Henderson does have that win over Athens early in the year, so that could be your tiebreaker.
Athens was in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They were tied at 8 with Sulphur Springs.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Take it back then. Well, Henderson should be ahead of them then. No, I'm just playing. I'm playing.
Well, yeah. Athens, maybe they've gotten better too, because
it
seems like
so.
as of late they're playing well. So
yeah.
All right.
Especially if they got their quarterback back.
All right. 3A, 2A, and TAPS poll. There was a little movement in this one. So let's see. I've got Malakoff 1, Palestine Westwood 2, Jefferson 3, New Diana 4. Those all stayed the same. I have Winsboro now at 5. I think who was at 5? I had Liberty Isle at 5. I dropped them a couple spots. I did lose to a really good Jefferson team, so I only dropped them a few spots. I have Grand Saline now at 8, and I have Liberty Isle Grand Saline now at 6, Liberty Isle at 7. I have Lovelady at 8, Wascom now up to 9, and I moved a new team in after a big win. I know Diggs tries to claim them, but I put Honeygrove in the poll at 10.
Okay, that's different. Wasn't expecting Honeygrove in there. I forgot. I need to go back and look at my my previous week because I don't remember who I.
It says
dropped
under last rank. That's your
right. Okay, no, I got it. Okay, I got it. So anyway, my poll this week, my top 6 remain the same. Did not change. Malakoff, Westwood, New Diana, Jefferson, Winsboro, Grand Saline, top 6. I dropped Shelbyville out of my poll
Oh, I did too. Yeah,
because
I did too. That's one I dropped out.
they lost. I dropped Liberty Ilo, so I didn't drop them out, but I did drop them. I moved Grapeland up from 8 to 7. I moved Lovelady from 10th to 8th. And I like your Wascom pick. I now looking back at it, I think maybe I should have put Wascom in, but instead I moved Garrison into my top 10 because I saw them this week. And listen, they turned the ball over 4 times against Timpson and still found a way to win that game. So I'm impressed with Garrison. And I dropped Liberty Ilo from 7 to 10 because there was a 1-point loss to Jefferson. So that's my top 10.
Okay. I like it. I think I couldn't figure out who that 10th spot was to me, and Honeygrove's close enough. I mean, they're on the edge here. I gave them a vote at 10. It's at the point now where you've got your solid ones, and you've got about 4 or 5. You could just throw any of them in there at the very end. But I think the top part of our poll is going to be pretty consistent. We might have some flip, but our top 6, 7 teams are pretty consistent now. Have kind of got their stride. There's a couple of top 10 matchups in this poll this week too, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Our final poll: Malakoff 1, Westwood 2, New Diana 3, Jefferson 4, Winsboro 5, Grand Saline 6, Liberty Ilo 7, Lovelady 8, Wascom 9, and Grapeland in at 10. So you look at that, you've got Malakoff plays Winsboro this week. You've got Wascom and Lovelady play this week. I'm sorry, Wascom, Grapeland, and Lovelady play this week. That's who it is. So you got a couple of matchups there in the top 10. So at least a little shakeup next week going into the playoffs, I'm sure. We'll have our final regular season tabulations next week. So man, lots of good ones there, Kyle. Now we can talk about the overall pick status here after this week here. Let's see how much Scott's winning. Oh, Scott's still up. His lead was trimmed to 6 though, so watch out. He lost 1 spot. So you've got James Franks now in second place at 73, and then the top 3 you got Michael Davis, Skip Netherland, and Wes Shue at 71 there. So let's see. Where's the NETSN? Where's the NETSN crew? I'm trying to find.
I already told you I'm one under that first page.
I've got
60.
I got 68. I'm in 9th place. Not too bad. Who's the next closest to me here? Scrolling down. I think Jaren's got 64. Yeah. There is some good news for you, Mr. Owens. You are 1 ahead of Corey Marshall.
Yes. All right.
So you did get one of your goals. You passed Corey, so that's good there.
Next up on my list is Jaren. I'm only 4 behind him.
Yeah, one at a time, right?
One at a time. You got to pick them off one at a time.
Hey, the good news is, well, let's go to week 11 and pick again. See if you can gain. Man, we just talked about that Mount Enterprise Overton game. Now they've got a game. Winner moves on, and it basically a playoff game to get in versus Alto this week. Man, they've got Keegan Ash back, and I think that's a big difference maker here. I got to see him a little bit, and man, they just hit Overton. I think wasn't expecting it, and they just hit him in the mouth early. Overton with Bryce still in that offense was able to come back. But I just think that Mount Enterprise now, if they've got Ash back in the lineup, which he is, I think they take Alto down and they get the win this week over the Alto Yellow Jackets.
You said it. That's the difference maker right there. Having Keegan Ash back makes Mount Enterprise a completely different team. Something I thought was interesting, though, Brett, when I was just looking at this, these teams played the exact same district schedule, just a week apart. So Alto played Cushing on the 27th. Mount Enterprise played Cushing on the 4th. Alto played Grapeland on the 4th. Mount Enterprise played Grapeland on the 11th. So they played Cushing, Grapeland, Tenaha, Lovelady, Overton, where they're 5 in a row, and they played them at the exact same time, just a week apart from each other. I think that's pretty interesting and have the exact same outcomes. Like
Yeah.
Alto lost to Grapeland, Lovelady, Overton. Mount Enterprise lost to Grapeland, Lovelady, Overton.
Well,
So
the other interesting part
weird.
of this district, Kyle, and it kind of has our game 3 on our pick'em too, kind of a spoiler. This is interesting. So this is a basically play-in game. So the winner of this is going to get 4th, no matter what. Then you've got Overton sitting at 4-1, and they bring Cushing into town, which we think that should be a pretty easy win for them. So they're going to sit at home. They're going to be sitting and watching the Grapeland Lovelady game, because if Lovelady takes care of business, then now Grapeland slides down into 3rd place, and Overton will slide back up to 2nd. If
But
somehow Grapeland beats Lovelady, then we've got that 3-way tie scenario.
yeah,
And let's see, in Overton, what's their plus minus? They lost to Lovelady by 20, which is not good. And they beat Grapeland by 5. So I don't know if that's a full plus or minus, but if it is, that's a negative 15, which is not great for Overton.
I think when I was in school,
Is it 2 touchdowns, like 14 max or something? I don't know.
I think it was. I want to say it was 15 that they maxed out at. I want to say it was 15, but I'm not 100% sure. And each district does it different.
Yeah. Well, either way, that's not a really good plus or minus there to have. And then you've got so then you've got Lovelady's got a pretty good plus or minus already. So I think Grapeland would have to win by quite a bit to do anything. But that's going to be interesting. You've still got that. I think Lovelady's going to win. Kind of skipping ahead here on this, but I think Lovelady's going to win that game, and Grapeland's going to settle down to 3rd, and Overton. That's that Overton win over Grapeland earlier in the year was really huge.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really like Grapeland. I like what Coach Wood is doing down there with the Sandies. I think they play really good defense, but that defense is going to be tested mightily with Lovelady. So I think Lovelady wins and takes care of business. But it would be fun to see the tiebreaker scenario if Grapeland did win and put all of them at 5-1. But yeah, I think Mount Enterprise wins, gets in the playoffs as a 4 seed, and I think Lovelady wins. And so you got Lovelady at 1, Overton 2, Grapeland 3, Mount Enterprise at 4.
All right, so we'll go back to game 2 now. That we got Union Grove traveling over to Big Sandy, a game that will be on NETSN this week. Big Sandy's sitting at 4-2 right now in their district. I was kind of looking at this. I don't think they can fall out of 3rd. I think they're locked in. Even if they lose this game, they would be tied with Elysian Fields if Elysian Fields got the win, but they've already beat Elysian Fields. And so they're locked into that 3rd spot. This is more of a let's just take care of business into season game. Union Grove, unfortunately, is out. Like this, Harleton ended up getting 2 wins. They're kind of in the mix. You've got, right now, you got Horace City that hasn't won a game, but then you've got everybody else has won at least 2 district games. This is a crazy deep district, one of those that you have to show up every week. And every point matters, right, Kyle?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Field goals, extra points, they all matter.
Yes. As Hawkins. They lost to Elysian Fields by 3. They lost to Union Grove by 1. They lost to Big Sandy by 1. 4 points, 5 points away. They'd have 3 more wins on their schedule there.
I don't think Union Grove is technically eliminated just yet. I think they still got something to play for because, yes, I know they lost to Elysian Fields. So even if Elysian Fields loses, they wouldn't have that tiebreaker over Elysian Fields. But if Harleton beats Elysian Fields, then no, you're right, because Union Grove lost to Harleton too. I was going to say that they could have a 3-way there, but they lost to Harleton too. So never mind. You're right. Yep, Union Grove's out of it.
Hawkins is the one that's going to be kicking themselves after the end of the season. Like when you just they were, they win 1 or 2 of those games, and it's a totally different scenario right now for them. They went to Elysian Fields and lost by 3. They lost to Big Sandy by 1. at home.
Yeah, it's
And
tough.
those are 2 playoff teams. They're going to probably be playoff teams in their district. So that's just tough
It's tough.
for Hawkins. They start off so strong. 3 opening wins, and they were just beating people up. When we talked about on the show, we were impressed with Hawkins, and they just kind of struggled through this district. I mean, they took care of Ora City and Harleton, 2 teams that we thought would be at the bottom, but
and Harleton's probably kicking themselves too, because if you look at that, Harleton was up big on Hawkins and had Hawkins come back. If Harleton wins that game, they're sitting here right now at 3-4, probably looking at a playoff spot where,
yeah.
you know.
Well, they'd be at 3-3 if they won that game, Kyle, and so then they would be playing Legion Fields for the playoff berth this week.
Right. Yeah, that's
So,
why I'm saying they would be 3-3 right now. You're right, and so they would be playing for that final playoff spot, maybe with an opportunity. Had they had beaten Big Sandy, an opportunity to get into that third spot. Like, that's where these games, you talk about it. You have 6 or 7 district games. You're like, oh well, if we drop 1 or 2 here, like, we could still get into playoffs. Maybe, but it depends on which one of those you lose. You lose a key game, like Harleton lost that Hawkins game. Now look how big that Hawkins game comes back to haunt you now. Same thing for Hawkins. You look at that; those 3 losses that they had, those go the other way. You're sitting pretty in the playoffs, and you're a lot better team. So, yeah, man, that is this tough. It's tough.
Really good district though. But I'm going with Big Sandy. I think they take care of Union Grove at home, and they roll into the playoffs on a positive note.
Yeah, I'm taking Big Sandy. I like that they showed up big time against Hawkins in a big game, and I think they're going to do the same thing against Union Grove. But Union Grove has an opportunity to play spoiler, and those are dangerous teams when you play them.
All right, next up, Tyler High. Okay, Tyler High, you're tied right now for 1, 2, 3, 4 teams are tied at 2 and 3 in this district. You've got Red Oak that they're playing this week. You've got Joshua and Burleson Centennial all tied at 2 and 3. This is a mess.
No. Red Oak's 3-2.
They are not according to
Red
what
Oak's 3-2, and Centennial and Tyler High are 2 and 3.
Oh, so did Red Oak not lose to Joshua? Is that the game that's wrong?
Yeah, Red Oak beat Joshua 21-14.
Oh, somebody put the score in wrong. Shame on them. Shame on them for that. Okay, well, then I should fix that so that we have the correct thing. All right, so that definitely changes. This game, I knew this game was important, but that makes more sense there. All right, so you've got this is a play-in game, Kyle, for these 2 teams. So it's cut and dry. That makes it a little more easier, actually.
Yeah, it does.
So you look at Tyler High, and if I was Corey, it's Tyler High all the way, baby, all the way. That's what Corey would say here. Man, they've just been so inconsistent. You go down through here. They lost to Highland Park and Midlothian. They're at the top of the district. They've got a win over Burleson. They lost to Burleson Centennial. That's when we thought they were kind of out of it. Now
That's
you've got
the one that hurts them.
Yeah, Red Oak beat Burleson Centennial. The only thing that's going for Tyler High right now is the game is at home. Red Oak's got to make the trip. I mean, that is a long trip. They've got the game at Rose Stadium. They've got a chance to lock a playoff berth in. Man, this is tough. This is tough right here. I don't know. I feel like that Tyler High is going to let me down, but I'm going to go with the Tyler High Lions to get the win. Don't let me down, or I might go back to calling you JT.
Listen, that's a compliment to John
maybe.
Tyler. That's not that they would prefer that, actually. Anyway, listen. I was going to pick Tyler High because I figured you were picking Red Oak, and I'm trying to gain games. So I want this to be known. I want Tyler High to win. I am go Cujo. I want Cujo to win. but I'm picking Red Oak only in hopes to gain a game on you. Because remember, I said I had to pick you off one by one. I need to gain a game
I thought you were
somewhere.
kind of gain a gain on Jaron, not me. You don't know who he's
I can
picking.
do both. I can do both. Exactly. I don't know who he's picking. I know who you're picking right now. So because of that, I'm going to pick Red Oak, but I want Tyler High to win. And my heart is picking Tyler High, but on paper, I'm going to pick Red Oak. But you're right. You talked about it. That loss to Burleson Centennial for Tyler High is the one that puts them in this must-win position. Had they won that game against Burleson Centennial, they're sitting here in a seeding game, not a play-in game. So brings up the intensity a little bit, but I think Coach Woods and them I think they can do it. I think they can do it. The key for Tyler High, I'll tell you the key. They got to start fast. The problem with Tyler High is it takes them forever to get going. They start slow and they get behind the 8-ball and they're already down 2 scores before you can even blink, and then they're playing catch up the entire game. So if they can come out against Red Oak and start fast and get up on Red Oak or even keep it tied, then I think Tyler High can win this game. But they're going to have to start fast.
All right. Game 5 should be a doozy of a game. You got Malakoff and Winsboro, Kyle. It's a game of a couple of teams that are not only ranked in our poll, ranked in the top 10 of the state. Man, this one's tough. Winsboro, this one still bothers me. That Tatum game still kind of just, I mean, I've seen Tatum and they're pretty good.
That was only half a game, though. It was only half a game, and it was pouring down rain.
I know it was.
And what does Tatum do very well? They run the football well.
They run the ball.
Winsboro likes to air it out.
Winsboro's got some good wins on their schedule. The Honey Grove win is a good one, even though, Hooks is a pretty good team. But then I look at Malakoff and Madisonville, a really good team. They're a 4A Division II. That's a good win. Grandview's always really good. They're just destroying people down this district schedule. Now you look at Winsboro, they're doing similar things, but I don't know. It's hard to go against Mike Jones, and I just can't go against Mr. Mike Jones. So I'm going with Malakoff to get the win.
So this is our red zone game of the week this week. So I'll be in Winsboro, another familiar territory for me to be stomping around in. But yeah, that Winsboro loss, that's tough. They could very easily be 9-0 right now too. Truthfully, neither one of these teams have been tested in about 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. Their district's just terrible. I mean, the district is just really, really bad. And I don't know how you get a good gauge. I mean, listen, the district's so bad. We had 20 players off one team quit the team last week. That's how bad this district is. So
did they officially quit? They're gone. They're not coming back.
I don't know. I'm not getting into it. I don't know the situation. But anyway, these teams haven't been tested.
I got beat 70-0. I might quit too, Kyle.
They quit before that. They quit before the 70-0 beating. Anyway, I don't think either one of these teams have been tested, and that concerns me a little bit because I think this is going to be a tight game. My issue is Malakoff is Winsboro's Achilles heel. They have not been able to get that monkey off their back. I mean, they will have great seasons going. I mean, you look at last year; they're 12-0, have to face Malakoff in the third round of the playoffs and get blown out 58-20. 2022, they were 10-1 going into play Malakoff in the area round. In the second round, got beat 55-10. So they've had to face Malakoff these past couple seasons, and when Winsboro has a really good team, they run up against Malakoff and get throttled. So I don't know what to think about this game. I know it's a completely different team, but what I do know is that man Mike Jones is still quarterbacking for Malakoff. So until Mike Jones graduates.
How can I get a hold of Mike Jones?
281-330-8004 is the number for Mike Jones. But until Mike Jones graduates, I'm not picking against Malakoff. So give me the Malakoff Tigers.
Okay. I thought you might try to go against me and gain a game there.
I wanted to, but Malakoff has won 25 games in a row, and they're the defending state champs. I'm not, and they've beat Winsboro. They've throttled Winsboro twice
You
in the
gotta
playoffs. I'm not picking against Malakoff.
until the man is beaten, you can't pick against him, right?
I'm not picking against Malakoff. Can't do it.
Speaking of
They're getting Malakoff is getting Carthage level where I'm not picking against them.
okay, smart man, I guess. All right, game 6, the game I'll be at this week, a play-in game in TAPS 5A District 2. The Austin Brentwood Christian squad will be rolling into town to take on the Brook Hill God. Speaking of team, I'm not picking against Brook Hill. Man, this team, like, honestly, they should be in second in this district right now. They've had a lot of injuries, a lot of adversity this season. That Grace game they played close was a 7-point game when the defense played really well, and Grace scored off a touchdown, a punt return, some crazy things happened there. And then another big game. They played well against Regents, which is the odds-on favorite to win the district. They play Hyde Park this week, who Brook Hill also beat. But I just don't see them making a drive from Austin to Brook Hill and getting a win. I think Brook Hill is ready. They're prepared, and they're ready to go. The winner of this game will get Fort Worth All Saints in the first round, which will be a tough matchup. But they'll get to go on and say they made the playoffs. And, hey, never say never around here because you just never know what's going to happen. So I'm taking the Brook Hill Guard behind quarterback Sam Williams, a Swiss Army knife of the guard, as he can do it all, Kyle. Hey, if you need your apartment clean, you need a dog or a cat sitter, whatever you need. Sam Williams is the man. He can do everything. Just whatever. Just ask him.
Well, if I ever own a house, I may call up Sam Williams to ask him to come mow my lawn and trim my hedges for me. But Brook Hill, I don't know anything about this Austin team other than what you just told me. Brook Hill is Carthage status for me. I'm not picking against Brook Hill. Why would I go against Coach Hubbard in the guard? Absolutely not. Give me Brook Hill by 50. Brook Hill by 50.
By 50. Woo. That's a big spot there.
Brook Hill by 50. Defense going to pitch a shutout. Coach Hubbard's defense going to pitch a shutout.
There you go. Hey, that would be impressive there. That wrecking ball defense, man. The cannonball defense, as they tagged him. I think Vince tagged him that cannonball defense.
I like that.
This district is interesting. TAPS, there's not as many teams in and all that, but you look at this district, you've got Hyde Park sitting in second place. Brook Hill beat them by 1 point. And then you've got Grace also. They're tied with them right now. They're sitting at 3-2. Brentwood Christians at 2-3. So they take care of business. They'll qualify. They'll end up tied with probably Hyde Park. Brook Hill and Grace will most likely all be tied because Hyde Park plays Regents the very last game. So, but the point differential, not so kind to the guard as they lost to Grace and only beat Hyde Park by 1. Kind of similar situation we were talking about earlier with a different district. So they're going to be in that 4 spot. So they just got to take care of business this week. Game 7. Joaquin and Garrison. Now, this one I want to talk about a little bit because we've got this district is nutso. Okay. You've got 4 teams that they have no idea what order they're going to be in. I don't think anybody is locked in any order. Now, I may be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure no one's locked in on order.
I don't think Shelbyville can get the 4 seed. That's the only thing because they did beat Garrison and Simpson. So I don't think they can get the 4. But outside of that, I think it's wide open.
Yeah, and they play Hemphill, so they're probably going to win. They're not. I mean, sorry, Hemphill, you're having a tough year. But you look at this. So you've got Garrison and Joaquin playing. Okay, the winner of that is going to probably finish tied with Shelbyville. Okay, so if you're Shelbyville, you want Garrison to win because you've already beat them. So if everything plays like they should, and Timpson takes care of business this week against I think they play St. Augustine. So Timpson ends up 3-2. Then you have the loser of that game at 3-2, and 2 teams at 4-1. So Garrison wins and Shelbyville wins. Then Shelbyville's 1, Garrison's 2, Timpson is 3, and Joaquin drops all the way down to 4. Joaquin's either 1 or 4. That is crazy. Like, to me, that is like, this is a huge game for Joaquin more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Because of the difference in seating. Now, if Joaquin wins, they tie with Shelbyville. Joaquin will be 1, Shelbyville 2.
Maybe.
Garrison,
Oh yeah, you're right. Shelbyville.
now
too.
Garrison will be down in 3rd, and Timpson will be 4th because they beat Timpson last week.
This is all assuming Timpson wins, because if San Augustine wins, Timpson's out.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the crazy thing about it. If Timpson loses to San Augustine, Timpson, the defending state champs, is out. So that's
true.
That's a huge game for Timpson.
Yeah, it is. And it's in San Augustine.
Yeah. And St. Augustine's not a pushover. They haven't had the greatest year, no, but they're still 4-5. Like, their district record hadn't been great, but they're 4-5.
They have a couple of losses, but like, they lost to Beckville, they lost to Westwood. I mean, those are pretty good teams. They've lost, of course, their district. Joaquin, Garrison, and Shelbyville. They've lost to really good competition. So that is.
I think Timpson wins, but it's not a foregone conclusion that Timpson's in. Like, they could still potentially be out.
Yeah, yeah. I think Garrison wins. I think Joaquin got the benefit of DJ Barnes not playing last week. Not to say they're not a good team, but I think that helped them get that win. I think they're, to me, the 4th best team in this district, but they got a benefit of one of the best players in the district not playing. So I'm going to take Garrison to get the win, and I think Joaquin ends up in that 4th spot. I think Timpson wins and ends up 3rd, with Shelbyville there in 2nd.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the big thing for Garrison, and you could tell, I got to do a little differently this past week. JD wasn't there. He was covering the trial. So I got to interview Coach Alvarez after the game. And you could just feel his relief of finally beating Timpson, because Timpson had won the last 7 games against Garrison. This had been a one-sided rivalry. But each year, Garrison has had a phenomenal team, kind of like the Winsboro-Malakoff situation. Garrison will have a great year and then run into Timpson. Garrison have a great year, run into Timpson. So it's been kind of that same thing. They finally got that monkey off their back. And I think more than anything, it's a relief, and it kind of proves to them they've beat the big dog now. They've beat that team that they haven't been able to beat. They got that monkey off their back. I think this may propel Garrison going forward. I think we see a better Garrison team. Brett, they had 4 turnovers and still found a way to win that game. Like, you don't turn the ball over 4 times and win games. Like, that doesn't happen.
And I thought this game would be more of a shootout. Honestly, I'm surprised it was lower scoring.
Me too. But Garrison found a way to win. And I think that played into Garrison's hand. I think if it was a high-scoring game, it favored Timpson more. But the low-scoring game and defensive battle, Garrison's defense is better than Timpson's defense. Now, Timpson's defense played outstanding on Friday night. Like, for all the missed tackles that Coach Gandy had been talking about leading up to that game, they tackled a lot better. Still gave up some big runs, obviously, to the Yarboroughs, but every team does that. That's the Yarboroughs. That's their MO. But I think that I really like this Garrison team. I think it propels them going forward. And, yeah, I think they win and lock up that 2 seed. And will be a force in the playoffs.
All right. Game 8 here. We've got the District 9 4A. We were talking about it earlier. Lindale and Henderson, Kyle, for the 4th spot. Winner gets in the playoffs. We've had several of these. Another one of those games. I have a feeling I know where you're going with this one, so I'm going to let you go first.
Well, I can tell you I'm not doing what I did last week. I don't feel as convicted about this one as I felt last week. I really, what's changed is how impressive Lindale looked against Pine Tree. I mean, for them to play Pine Tree as tight as they did, I really thought Pine Tree, truthfully, I thought Pine Tree would probably win by 10 points or so, 10, 14 points, kind of handily in the game. Lindale came out and performed really well on the road in a tough place. Pine Tree is not an easy stadium to play at either. Pirate Stadium over there is not easy. So for Lindale to go out there and perform the way they did and to fall just short of beating Pine Tree on the road, I think they come back home tonight. I think they come back home on Friday night and really get a home win to solidify themselves and put them in the playoffs. And again, we talk about it. I know that other district is tough, but you get in, anything can happen. All you want is an opportunity in the dance. So it's unfortunate for the season that Henderson has had, and that it comes down to this final game where they have where they're looking like they may not even make the playoffs. I hate that for Henderson. I really do. I love what Coach Clay Baker and the Lions are doing over there, but I'm 2 minutes from the stadium. I'm not picking against the Lindale Eagles. I can't do it. Go class of dimes. I can't go against Lindale. Not again.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kyle. I think it's going to be a sad day in Henderson. Like we talked about this all year when Henderson started off really well, and we were impressed with them. That this was 5 teams for 4 spots, and any 5 of these probably could win 2 or 3 games in the playoffs. It was just a matter of who was going to get those 4 spots. And after 3 district games, Henderson was sitting really pretty, 3-0, and they've kind of just hit the meter schedule, and it's kind of hit them in the face. I mean, Pine Tree, they were in the game, but they lost by 10. It was on the road, but last week against Chapel Hill, man, you had a chance to lock up a spot in the playoffs, and you had the game at home, and you lost by 4 touchdowns
against a team that was wounded, that didn't have their
Mhm.
2 best players. Like, that was laid up on a platter for you to win, and to not even show up is what kind of surprises me.
Yeah, and then you have to go over to Lindale and try to get a win to get in the playoffs. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going with Lindale in this one. I'm with you. I think they're going to take care of business, and they'll represent District 9 as that 4 seed. And I think it's going to be Kilgore, Pine Tree, Chapel Hill, Lindale that make it.
Isn't it funny too how it's not funny, but I mean, ironic, I guess, how both teams are coming off of losses, but we feel so differently about each team because of how they looked in those losses. I mean, like you said, for Henderson to lose the way they did to a Chapel Hill team that wasn't at full strength is not a good look. And then for Lindale to play the way they did on the road at Pine Tree and go into overtime and lose a tough one, I think Lindale's got that momentum and is playing better ball right now. And yeah, Henderson just hit a tough stretch of their schedule. They got all these big teams at one time, and it's been a tough road for Henderson.
All right. Next up, a game for the 3rd and 4th seed of District 11 and 3A Division 2. We got the ARP Tigers and the West Rusk Raiders for Friday night game in West Rusk. Man, this is a huge game for ARP. Man, they so much want to win this game, I'm sure, not just for seeding, but West Rusk has been kind of the dominant team in this district this year, and right now they just haven't been. They haven't looked great this year. I mean, they've got, of course, they lost to Malakoff. Everyone does that. They've lost a couple of games that were good teams, Gladewater and Tatum. That's a step up, but they got smacked by New Diana really bad, 72-7. I think that was when I was, it was like, wow. But then they played Troop close. They played Troop to a 2-point loss. So I think this game is a coin flip to me. I just look at what ARP has done. They've been a little more consistent this year. I know that they haven't. They lost to New Diana, but not quite as bad. But they lost to Troop a little bit worse. But I kind of throw that game out as that's a huge rivalry game. I think ARP wants it, man. I think I'm going to take them to go on the road and beat West Rusk. They're going to be a lot of folks at this game, and I'm sure I'll get updates from Mike Alzamore over there in ARP. He's always sending me updates. Shout out to Mike and all he does for that school district. But I think it's an ARP Tiger win this week. I'm going with the Tigers.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of West Rusk, to be honest with you. They played Troop into 5 overtimes and barely lost that one. But this ARP team, man, they got a 1-point loss to Garrison early in the year. And then that loss to Troop, which, like you said, is a rivalry game, but then played New Diana pretty tight. I mean, 41-16. I know it doesn't sound like tight, but for a team that's been blowing people out by 60 points every week to only win, 41-16, that's impressive by the ARP Tigers. From Michael Coleman was at this game, the ARP game last week against New Diana. And from listening to him, it seems to me that ARP's going to need to find somebody else. Like Josh Smith does a lot for the ARP Tigers, but they're going to have to find somebody else on offense to help shoulder that load. It can't all be Josh Smith.
Yeah, Zane Bork is out with injury, so
Okay.
that's
Okay.
so
That hurts.
Yeah.
So, but I think ARP is the better team. I think ARP. Again, that Troop game goes the other way. You're looking at the ARP Tigers as a 2 seed out of this district, and I think ARP is the better team in this matchup. And to your point, they've just been more consistent. I don't know what West Rusk is. I think I know what ARP is. I think ARP is a very good football team. I'm not sure about West Rusk, so I'm going to take the ARP Tigers in this one.
All right, game 9, we got Marshall versus White House in a game that's pretty important. 2-3 seed on the line, or possibly White House not even making the playoffs in this district. As man, we've got some funky scenarios here, Kyle. Just looking at this year, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but you've got White House sitting there at 3-2, tied with Mount Pleasant. They lost to Mount Pleasant already, so they are technically the 4th spot at the moment, playing Marshall, who's 4-1. So Marshall takes care of business. Like I think they are. I'm going with Marshall. They get 2nd place. It throws White House down here in 3-3. And then you got Mount Pleasant and Hallsville playing each other. Hallsville winning over Mount Pleasant could throw a huge wrench in this in a weird scenario.
Yeah, it could. I don't think that happens, but listen, Hallsville's playing some really good ball right now. They've really been playing competitive. I know they just lost a couple weeks ago to White House by 19, but I like what Hallsville's doing and performing here recently. Again, lost last week to Marshall 35-7. I know it doesn't look good, but they've been more competitive in these games against more equal competition. This Mount Pleasant game, man, Mount Pleasant, that win over White House could be the win that propels them into the playoffs. They get a win over Hallsville Friday night. They're into the 3 seed. I'm picking Marshall as well. I think Marshall is clearly the 2nd best team in this district. But this is kind of the same scenario it came down last year with White House. You win, you get to host a playoff game. You lose, you don't. And what's worse for White House this year is if they lose and Hallsville wins, then like you said, there's a chance that they don't even make the dance.
So you're saying there's a chance?
I'm saying there's a chance. I think Marshall takes care of business and beats White House. I think Mount Pleasant takes care of business and beats Hallsville. I don't think we see any wacky scenario, but there's a possibility it could happen. But as far as this game, I'm taking the Marshall Mavericks.
All right. That's the last one of our pick'ems. Let's I'm going to go down here through some of the games, Kyle, because there are still some playoff seeding that's on the line, and just kind of tear through some of these districts that we've been talking about. One district I want to talk about is the next one I see here. You got Jefferson playing Tatum. Jefferson leading this district here. A game that we saw earlier that really could have flipped things, as Tatum now 3-2 in the district. Them in Gladewater a few weeks ago. That game goes the other direction. You're talking totally another scenario. We have Gladewater and White Oak this week as one of our games, which at this point in the season is just to finish up for their seasons. They're not going to make the playoffs. But, man, that game that we saw a few weeks ago, it could have flipped and made some things really, really interesting.
That's what we talked about earlier, those wins in district play that may seem insignificant or not as big at the time looking back at it at the end of the year, like, man, had we lost that game, we could be sitting at home and not even having a chance. So, yeah, it's tough for Gladewater to they're going to look at that too. We won that game. We have a chance this week to be playing for a chance in the playoffs. So, yeah, the Gladewater White Oak just for bragging rights this weekend.
Yeah, we got now Gilmer's district. I want to look at it because they're going to match up. So it looks like you've got Russ, Bullard, and Brownsboro in that weird scenario we talked about earlier, and the winner of that one's going to get our friends from Pleasant Grove. Gilmer now they're kind of locked into that second spot now. As Van's going to play Pleasant Grove, and which is one of the games we didn't talk about in our pick'ems, but it's an interesting matchup. I think Pleasant Grove wins, but that's going to be an interesting district matchup. You've got let's see, Spring Hill and Pittsburgh play, so that's a play-in game. One of the games in this district. So whoever wins that, they get the chance to play some Carthage team. Do you even want to win that game to have to go play Carthage? I don't know. That's interesting. But these are going to be interesting because I think the 2 and 3 matchups from these two districts are going to be some of the best first round games in the area, Kyle, because you could have a let's see, right now a Center Gilmer Van Athens matchups. Those are juicy to me. I'm excited for those.
Yeah, I saw the Center Gilmer matchup last year in the playoffs, and it was a fun one. It was a high scoring affair. But I have a little insight on Van because I have my good buddy David Barber at the Van Zant News.
Okay.
Van will be no worse than a number 3 seed. If they win against Pleasant Grove, which probably not, but if they win, Van would move up to a number 2 seed. If Van wins by at least 13 points Friday night, they would move up to a number 1 seed. So if Van can beat Pleasant Grove by 13 or more Friday, then they win the district championship outright and the number 1 seed. So
number 1 seed's important in that district too.
It is. So now I don't think that's going to happen, but yeah, you talked about it. Van Athens is a first round matchup. I mean, they used to be in the same district. That's a juicy first round matchup. And Center Gilmer, you never know what's going to happen in that game. So yeah, that could be some fun times in by district.
Trying to scroll down through. We didn't talk about this, and we talked about it off the air. Is Lufkin and Galveston ball play this week? District championship on the line. No, we haven't talked about Lufkin much. They're down in that district in the south area that they requested a move to, and we kind of haven't kept track. But we talked about it. 8 wins in a row for Lufkin, and they're rolling right now, looking like they like that district they're in down there.
This Lufkin defense is phenomenal. This Lufkin defense is playing great ball. The last week against Beaumont United, they had, I think, 4 touchdowns, and the offense didn't score at all. And for those first 4 touchdowns, 3 defensive touchdowns and a punt return for a touchdown. So, I mean, Lufkin's playing out of their mind right now. And that we talked about it off air. Their only loss is a 4-point loss in week 1 in pouring down rain to Longview. Like, that is mind-blowing to me to see how good this Lufkin team is. I got to see them against Tyler High earlier this year, and I was impressed with them then. And they've done this most of the season with the backup quarterback. Like, Quincy Kuti is not the starting quarterback for Lufkin, but he's been playing quarterback for majority of the season. So I'm thoroughly impressed with Lufkin. I think they can take care of business against Galveston ball. And big thing for Lufkin is, I think, let me double check. Yeah, they beat Port Arthur Memorial too. So no matter what, Lufkin will be hosting a playoff game in week 1. So shout out to the Lufkin Panthers that going to be hosting a playoff game down at Abe Martin. After what Lufkin's been struggling recently. So for them to move districts, have that appeal, have to go through all that process, and be hosting a home playoff game this season is outstanding work by Coach Quick in the Lufkin Panthers. That defense, Zion Williams, not Zion Williamson, Zion Williams from Lufkin going to LSU next year. Big defensive tackle. He's a force to be reckoned with on the inside too.
Man, so a lot of great football this week. A lot of things going on NETSN this week. So if you're listening to this show tonight, you've already watched the Brownsboro Brook Hill game. I'm not going to predict the score or ruin it for you, so you got to go watch it. But Jeremy Diamond and myself were on the call for that one on Monday night. So two teams, Brownsboro with the pedigree. Brook Hills has a strong team this year. That game on NETSN. Also, Larry's going to be doing tonight at some point. You need to go find it on FHS, the Shelbyville Dragon playoff game on FHS. So make sure you go check that out. It's time to kick up that NFHS subscription here as playoffs are coming up, and there'll be a lot of games on there. Our crews will be covering a lot of football games. Larry's going to try to get a couple of volleyball in, but make sure you go pick up that subscription here for the playoffs for sure, as they own the rights to these games, and we're able to have the great opportunity to broadcast these and to put out some good streams for you guys. So make sure you check that out. Now, this week also, we've got Thursday night. Larry has secured a game that's been moved to Thursday night. Sabine Pass and West Sabine. Not one we talked about, but that is an important game in that district, and I need to bring that up. And I almost forgot about that one. But West Sabine is playing well, and they have a chance to make a little playoff run. So they are sitting right now at 4-1 in district play. So Sabine passed at 3-2. So it's an important game here in that district. So make sure you check that out. That'll be free on our YouTube channel. Larry will be doing it all there on the call for that game. Yeah, he hasn't even secured Friday's game. He's still working on Friday's game. We'll have it up. He's got a couple options. He hasn't told me where he's going to be yet. It's like instead of where's Waldo, where's Larry?
Where's Larry going to be in DP, Texas?
He's trying to pick the best game he can possibly find as far as at this time of the year, you want to pick one that has a lot of meaning to it. So it'll be
Garrison Joaquin.
I think that was one of the options. I think maybe St. Augustine Timpson was one of the options. So either one of those will be really good. So where we'll be this week is, like I mentioned, Keith is going to be at Union Grove Big Sandy this week. Have that game on NETSN. I'll be over at Brook Hill, and Vince and I will be calling the game between Brentwood Christian and the Brook Hill Guard. And then Jaron will be back in the booth this week, hopefully, and he'll be over in White Oak for the Gladewater White Oak game over there. And then our friends from Center will have a one broadcast for both of our schools. We have Rusk and Center playing each other this week, and so Shires and Watlington and their crew will be in
the NETSN Bowl.
The NETSN Bowl. That's right. It is true. And then I guess Saturday, Kyle, you're gonna be back in the booth with me, right? Is that an official deal?
Well, I'm glad you said that. I was gonna say I'll make my breaking news announcement here. I'll be making my 2024-2025 in booth debut on Saturday as the Brook Hill Lady God take on the Tenaha Lady Tigers, which should be a phenomenal game. Tenaha usually has a really good girls basketball program. We know about Brook Hill. So that'll be a fun one at the WAG, a little neutral site location for the two teams.
Yeah, I think I've got you in the booth here for a few games coming up, Kyle. It's gonna be fun. We'll have a lot of fun. You get to play with the scoreboard again and have fun with that. I'm sure you're chomping the bits to.
I think I'm more excited for that than even talking about the game. I could be completely silent. We know I won't be, but I could be completely silent, just run the scoreboard, and I'd be happy.
So lots of games coming up. I think the following Tuesday night, it's a week from tonight, is going to be another game. I think that's can't remember which game that is. I'm starting to work on the schedule, but I think you're with me again on that one as well. So should be a lot of fun. We'll have you got Papa O on the camera, I think, Saturday as well. So I'll have the Owens duo with me. We're going to have a lot of fun over at Wagstaff. So make sure if you can't make it out to the game, we'll have it live on NETSN to make sure you have fun. I'm excited, man. This is my favorite time of year when football and hoops overlap, and we've got all kinds of good stuff.
Hey, we got a doubleheader on the 12th.
Oh, it is. It's the guys.
It's a Brook Hill doubleheader. The girls will be the boys will be playing first against Regents Academy, and then the girls will be taking on Palestine that night. So a doubleheader action next Tuesday.
Ooh, doubleheader. Okay, ready. I'm ready. Well, hopefully you'll have a Corey Marshall sighting, and he may come to the booth every once in a while.
Who? Corey Marshall?
Yeah.
Who is that?
I don't know. I'm forgetting who he is. Maybe he'll show up sometime.
Man,
Yeah.
I knew a guy named Corey. We called him CM. He was a great feller. I don't know what happened to him, but he was a great guy.
Oh, that's funny. Hold up. The cricket. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened to him. But lots of things going on here on NETSN. So super pumped about the next few weeks. And again, we'll be back next week here, and we'll talk who's in, who's out, what we got coming up for the next week, where we'll be, and your official Red Zone game of the week. I know you probably said it a while ago, Kyle, but what's the where is it this week?
The defending 3A Division I state champion, 25-game win streak Malakoff Tigers head over into Winsboro to take on the Rugged Red. Should be a good one. I'm excited for it.
Awesome. Well, that's going to do it for our show today. The Beast from East Week 11. Next week, playoff edition of Beast from the East, where we'll talk playoffs. So that'll do it for Mr. Red Zone OT, KO Kyle Owens. I'm Mr. NETSN, Brett Swinney, signing off for this week's episode of Beast from the East. Make sure you get your pick'ems in on time, and we'll see you next week. Good luck to your teams. Hopefully they make the playoffs. We'll be here next week. Good night, everybody.
Lean on your brother tonight. Let your brother count on you every play tonight. Okay? And come out and have fun. The gates are locked. Ain't nobody getting out now. They can't run. The gates are locked. Let's bring the fight to them, guys. Yes, sir. All right, brother. Let's pray.
The Northeast Texas Sports Network is dedicated on delivering the most entertaining sports broadcasts in East Texas. And if you're interested in having your next sporting event streamed live, visit us online at